5 years of marriage throwing the toilet because my wife can't close her legs. No one doubts that there is no worse feeling when you discover that your wife is cheating on you with another man. Make no mistake about it, you feel cheated, deceived, angry, abused, violated, manipulated, and above all you feel less like a man than any man you know. In this type of short story full of family drama, dysfunctional couples, associated with a psychological drama, a type of psychological thrillers, which I am sure will catch your attention, if you listen from the beginning to the end. Kind of emotional story, where the word trust does not exist on both sides, and let's not talk about justified jealousy, but also when you as a husband have the false belief that love can even change an emotionally damaged woman. A woman who for some reason psychologically disturbed and emotionally conflicted. A woman who believes that everything is about her, not about others, when it comes to seeking pleasure. A type of woman who seeks pleasure by participating in intimate relationships considered dangerous, immoral, and questionable by society. For this type of woman, the more dangerous an intimate relationship is, the more pleasure it produces in her. A woman without shame, who does not respect any moral principle, who uses sex to fill some internal emptiness. The type of woman who is the product of selfishness, is an insatiable woman who can't close her legs and sleeps with the first man, who is willing to satisfy her deepest uncontrollable desire to be pleased as a woman. As you can see, I am simply telling you an honest description of my wife, mother of 2 children, who once cheated with a man, and thinking about the children, I forgave her, not knowing that she would do it again, as if nothing had happened. That unhealthy need for my wife to seek sexual satisfaction outside of marriage is something I can't stand anymore. But why am I still with this woman despite her cheating on me with other men? How did I know that my wife was cheating on me with another man? What were the reasons why I forgave her when I found out about the first infidelity with another man? Regardless, why haven't I decided to divorce a woman who cheats on me with another man, a sexually ill woman, a wife who doesn't respect her husband, a woman whose level of promiscuity is destroying a marriage that only exists on paper? Listening to the plot of this short story of a broken marriage due to deceit, lies, and mistrust, you might find the answer. My mother always told me that sometimes men get the woman they deserve, based on the type of woman that this man is looking for, and something that many men have, as a result of growing up in a broken marriage surrounded by toxic parents, because they do not have a clear image of which it is the role of the wife in marriage, but also the man, and they end up choosing an emotionally damaged wife just like them. Some men look for a surrogate mother in the wife they choose, and in others a wife who fills the needs of affection that they never felt during childhood. Let's also talk about those men who grow up with the false belief that love can do everything, including healing the mental conditions of a traumatic past of an emotionally damaged woman. It is possible, it could be my case. My wife and I met in one of those places where some businessmen, and figures with a certain level of social influence, get together to have a good time, accompanied by friends, and why not well with the girls, who visit that place to try to get a wife in equal economic condition, or what some would say an economically established husband. My wife was sitting several tables from mine, and sometimes I would look with a certain desire to meet her. A beautiful, attractive, accommodating, well-educated woman projecting an image of being a self-confident woman in her ability to like men, and establish a good conversation regardless of the topic. After several drinks, it was noticeable that there were certain attractions between her and me. An hour later, I ended up making love to a woman, who would later end up being my wife. Despite not really knowing my wife, as a person, as a woman, and as a future wife, we got married several months later, and 7 months after that, our first child came into our life. A year later, with some medical problems, she gave birth to our second child, and who became the center of attention for us as proud parents, but also for my family. 3 years into the marriage, for some unknown reason, my wife began to neglect the children, and she began to not pay much attention to take care of them, while she got drunk in another room. The first few months, I didn't pay much attention to it, because that's what all marriages go through. Many times my wife, she would leave the house, without saying where she was going, and sometimes I noticed that she was not telling the truth. It wasn't until one night talking to her about her changes that she told me that she felt trapped in this marriage. Even though she loved children, she felt she was a bad mother. My first impression of what my wife told me is that something is not right with my wife, and I tried to make an appointment with a family therapist to find out the reason for this change in my wife. When we were in therapy, she told the therapist that after the birth of her second child, she as a woman stopped feeling what all women feel when they make love, and as a result of this, she thought that the problem was me. But then, she discovered that she was the problem, because as a way of verifying what was really happening to her, she went to bed with a man at the bar, obtaining the same results of lack of pleasure when making love. You can imagine what I felt when I heard my wife's story of cheating with a stranger. It was devastating for me to hear that from my wife, someone I always trusted as a woman, as a person, but also as a mother. The therapist replied to her that to find out the reasons behind the lack of feeling pleasure when having sex, she should seek a specialist in that area, to rule out any type of physical problem, to diagnose female sexual dysfunction. The therapist recommended a sexologist, who should diagnose the low sex drive and find out if the cause is physiological or emotional. For some reason, my reaction to knowing that my wife could be suffering from some kind of sexual problem, according to the family therapist, this did not lessen the disgust, and it hurt me when I found out that my wife had cheated on me with another man in the past. When I heard that my wife has some type of sexual disease, which could be the result of some physical or mental problem, now I understand a little the many times that my wife told me that not tonight, because she felt tired, that she is not night either, because she doesn't feel in the mood to have sex. And let's talk about the times when I was in a moment of passion. My wife seemed distant. I mean, her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else. Sometimes when I noticed this kind of cold behavior during sex, I attributed it to the stress of work, childcare, and let's talk about the responsibility of meeting the emotional needs of a husband. For me, it was a stupid way of justifying my wife's deception when she was having sex with another man, something I discovered much later. Maybe it was a little selfish of me not to recognize the signs that my wife could have some kind of sexual disease. But we men, when we see the naked body of a woman, we do not think with our heads. That my wife was cheating on me with another man was never in my mind, but the revelations that she recounted in the appointment with the therapist was a wake-up call that taught me that despite the trust with which I treated my wife, that was not enough for her to cheat on me with another man. My wife cheated on me as a result of mental or physical illness that the family therapist alleged? I really do not know, until a specialist in the area of sexology something a more conclusive diagnosis. Can a treatment restore my wife's desire to have sex? Really, my wife cheated on me with another man because of the problem that my wife alleges, or is there something deeper that she is hiding? Right now I'm too confused to have an answer. It is possible that some of you have heard the expression, nice guys finish last. Maybe that could have been the reason why my wife cheated on me with other men, and I am doing everything possible to save our marriage, trying to be the good one like a movie, the compressive husband who sacrifices himself supporting a wife who is unfaithful to him, and all in the name of saving a marriage. Because when things get tough, as parents we have to think about what is best for the children. Another expression used by many who bet on sacrifice for God in the future, it will pay you greatly. Product of my confusion as to the way forward, if I forgive my wife for having an affair with another man, and present as if nothing had happened, or should I investigate the real reasons why she was unfaithful to me? If she is suffering from a low desire to have sex, why didn't she tell me? And as a couple seek professional help. Days after consulting with the sexologist, after many laboratory analyses and several sonographies, to detect any type of abnormality in my wife's reproductive system, the diagnosis of the sexologist who is treating my wife is that she has no physical problems or hormonal problems. According to the conclusion of the sexologist, my wife had some type of mental trauma associated with sexuality, which prevented her from feeling pleasure during sex. To find a solution, she recommended a good therapist in the sexual area who could help my wife to overcome the trauma and enjoy intimate relationships with her husband again. That my wife has some type of lack of sexual desire is something that I can understand, and more so when she has 2 children. But the part that still creates some doubt in my mind is my wife's infidelity. When you are married and your wife is cheating on you, the husband is the last to know. But how do I find out if this is true? How do I find out who my husband cheated on me with? He could hire a private investigator, which would cost me a lot of money. Could I talk to some of the close relatives who will defend the good or bad actions of my wife? Could I also talk to one of her best friends who could tell my wife, which will increase the problem of mistrust between both she for having cheated on me with another man, and because I distrust my wife after she confessed her infidelity. But there is a last resource that I could use, and that is to ask for help from someone who no one imagines. And I am talking about one of my ex-girlfriend, who knew my wife long before we married. I contacted her via text and she asked me, why do I want to talk to me? When I told her that I would like to talk in person about something that was important to me, she insisted that it was so important to talk to me in person, as she was a married woman, which could damage her image as woman talking to an ex-boyfriend. Moments later she called me on the phone and asked me once what was the matter. I simply told her that, right now I had a suspicion that my wife was cheating on me with another man. In which my ex-girlfriend replied to me, usually nice guys finish last. I have no doubt that your wife is cheating on you with another man, knowing your wife's reputation with her for marrying you. When I heard my ex-girlfriend's words, I asked her, what are you talking about? She simply replied, your wife was cheating on you with her ex-boyfriend, when she was dating you. Why you never told me? I asked her. She replied, if I had told you, you would have believed me. You would have said that I was telling a lie so that you would break up with your girlfriend and come back to me. But it was a rumor that everyone commented, even your family knew of her infidelity towards you. Then she came out pregnant, and you to know the morals of your wife from what they will say you married her, to normalize her marital relationship. Maybe that's why the expression nice guys finish last exists. Over time and continue with my life, and in your families who knew about the infidelity never told you the truth about the type of woman who had married you, maybe because you felt happy next to her. Many of us, knowing the promiscuous lifestyle of your wife, who couldn't keep her legs closed, wished she would change when she married you, settled down, because you were a good man. Even though your wife didn't deserve a man like you, but you deserved a good wife. In my case, I don't deny that I was furious when you chose her over me, but I understood that she was the woman you chose to marry. Then she closed the phone, wishing me good luck in my inquiries about my wife's unknown past. For some reason, after listening to what my ex-girlfriend told me, there is no doubt that my wife for some reason can keep her legs closed. But something that surprised me about what my ex-girlfriend told me is that everyone in my family knew that my wife cheated on me with another man before marrying me. Here comes the popular expression, the last person to find out about her wife's infidelities is her husband. I hardly sleep thinking about how foolish I had been to trust my wife. Sometimes I looked at her with a certain anger and at the same time with a certain compassion, wishing inside me that it's a lie, what my ex-girlfriend told me about my wife's bad reputation. Talking to myself in silence, after hearing what my ex-girlfriend said about my wife's infidelity with her ex-boyfriend. And let's not talk about what she said during the family therapist visit. I wondered, why did I really marry a woman I don't really know? The next morning I will try to talk to my older sister so she can tell me a little more about my wife's infidelities. Why did my family, knowing about my wife's infidelities, never tell me anything? How could I have been so blind when it comes to my wife's cheating? After the revelation of my wife in the psychotherapist's office about the infidelity and the alleged frigidity problems that she suffers? Or is she the most dishonest woman, or does she have serious mental problems? To continue investigating my wife's infidelities, I must talk to my sister to corroborate my ex-girlfriend's story about my wife's cheating with her ex-boyfriend when she was dating me. It is a type of story that you need to corroborate, to be sure that everything is true, and more so when we talk about the future of my marriage. For some time I hadn't talked to my sister unless it was some family problem. She lives 4 hours away in another town, married for several years. My sister, when I asked her about my wife's infidelity according to my ex-girlfriend, she told me that it was an open secret that everyone knew. Some even claimed that you knew it too, but it was something many thought you didn't care about. I told her what my wife said in the office of a family therapist about infidelity and low drive having sex. My sister laughed, that kind of ironic laugh that women have when someone is lying to you, asking me questions. Did you really believe in everything she told you? When I told her, yes, she replied that I was either a fool or I was playing a fool. My sister also added that she went to the family therapist to confess her infidelity, because I threatened her that if she didn't tell you, my whole family would tell you to unmask your wife in the kind of double life your wife has been living until now and will continue to do so if you don't stop her. Being a wife at home and a prostitute outside of it because she couldn't keep her legs closed. Right now your wife is cheating on you with the boyfriend of one of her best friends, so that lie that she doesn't feel anything when they make love is an excuse for me to stop threatening her to change, or leave my brother if you don't loves him. Looking at my sister in the eyes with a little anger on my face, I reproached her, because you never told me about my wife's infidelity. She simply replied that she thought it was something that I knew and that your wife, she couldn't keep her legs closed, having sex with everyone, as if she were a single woman, was something that you tolerated and accepted. There is no doubt that I have been the dumbest man in the world for the way I have allowed my wife to cheat on me with other men. There is no doubt that before my wife's revelations that she cheated on me with another man before the family therapist, my wife's story of infidelity when we were a boyfriend, and now my wife's infidelity with her friend's best friend told by my sister, there is not the slightest doubt that my wife cannot for some reason keep her legs closed, flushing into the toilet 5 years of marriage. The question would be, what should I do after knowing that my wife has cheated on me with other men from the beginning? Should I divorce my wife or try to save the marriage for the children we have together? After so many deceptions, lies and manipulation, can I trust my wife, a woman who can't keep her legs closed? What will she do with the children growing up without the presence of her father, if in fact they are my children? Why is the husband the last to be known when his wife has been unfaithful? Can a marriage survive after cheating? In the next video, I promise you that I will give you answers to each of these questions, and you will be surprised as a listener of this type of failed marriage story, product of infidelity, lies, emotional manipulation and self-deception. If you like the plot of this video, about dysfunctional marriages and cheating couples, please subscribe to this channel, leave your comments and share this type of video.